Beyond Bitcoin Hangouts are meant to give everyone a voice, a chance to speak with others who are passionate advocates for expanding the blockchain's use cases out into the world and beyond. Do you have a crypto community you would like to represent and hold open hangouts for? If so, you might find yourself on the path to owning a stake in Beyond Bitcoin. We are looking for people who care about people who want to bring others together, because crypto communities are people. Beyond Bitcoin is a movement of thinkers and doers in the crypto space. And if you feel you are one of them, reach out to beyondbitcoin@gmail.com for more information on how to debut your community's efforts to reach to the stars and beyond. Welcome to another Beyond Bitcoin Hangout, everyone. Today is Friday, April 8th, 2016. As all Beyond Bitcoin Hangouts work, we have an open discussion with a community of crypto advocates, individuals who are very passionate about blockchain technology and what it can do for the world. We like to feature guest speakers from time to time who are working on various projects. And today we would like to talk with Solomon Sollars and Sense, who is working on the Sollywood project. He can talk a little bit more about it, but what I will say is that he has had a very successful little Bitcoin crowd donation drive for the Kickstarter that he plans on launching in the future. But he has some people who are in the BitShares and Bitcoin Talk forums who have asked him many questions, and some of those people may be here today. Those of you who have questions for Solly, he is here to answer the questions and give a little bit of an update on where he's going. So Solly, would you like to give a little bit of an update on the past couple weeks and give us a little bit of a question and answer session?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I would definitely be open for that, and updating the community, and just taking it from there. So, hey everyone, Solomon Adekale here, founder of the New Money Project, and just an update with where we are. So we launched a pre-sale for our token about 2 weeks ago, not really knowing, how it was going to be received by the community, and it's been nothing short of amazing, at least for my end. I've been doing this for a while. We've had all our premises in terms of what's going to happen, all of our theories of what will happen if we focused on the marketing aspect rather than the technological aspect. And so far, it's paying off. We've done very well in our pre-sale, and it's just a pre-sale. It's not even the official ICO. The official one starts next week, Thursday at 12 p.m. And a thread on Bitcoin Talk and BitShares Talk will be launched. And this time, we'll be doing bonuses for the first 3 days. So if you purchase on those days, you will get those bonuses. There'll be a lot more tiers, a lot more pricing that's more suitable for what we're trying to do. And so, as you guys know, we're taking the route to reaching a mainstream audience right away. We're not talking about in 2-3 years. No, we're talking about right away. We want mainstream people using this currency, because that is what's going to create the narrative that we are not the next Bitcoin. We are the next dollar, which is so much bigger than Bitcoin and so much bigger than what anybody else is trying to do. So again, we're very encouraged with what we're doing. And yes, Tom is right. It is a lot more than tears.
No more crying.
But yeah, no more crying.
Because you're so
all
happy,
the crying,
Solomon.
all my crying happened back in 2014 and 2015. It's hard being an entrepreneur. It's never easy putting your ideas out there, and we all go through tough times. So it's been very encouraging to see just the amount of support and positivity that has come from BitShares, that has come from Bitcoin. Surprisingly, Bitcoin Talk. It's very very encouraging. So I'm just I'm very motivated to for the next step. And that's really, 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 again, taking this to a mainstream audience, guys. That is what we're doing here. So it's very exciting.
And you said that you were accepted pretty well in Bitcoin Talk forums, and you um, said in your BitShares ecosystem, right?
I'm sorry, say that one more.
You said in the initial post that you were part of the BitShares ecosystem. This project was going to the BitShares ecosystem, correct?
Absolutely. Everybody knows I am from BitShares, and still we've got positive, just positive, positive feedback, positive energy. Just it's amazing. It really is amazing because
I think
you know.
that goes to show that the approach you take with the emotional appeal is what connects with people, and that's why they can shut off their technical left brain and really get into the emotional content. That's probably why you have that positive response, as opposed to generally when we do things, it's a left brain kind of discussion and kind of turns some people off apparently.
I would agree, Tom. And again, you never know when we just have hypotheses of what's going to happen. You never know if it is going to happen. And so it was very, of course, it's very nerve wracking that first, that first day where you post and you don't know who's going to say what. And of course, you got that one guy who's going to say something stupid about your
That
project
one
or whatever.
guy.
That one guy. It's always that one guy who's going to
You mean
say
you mean
something
the guy who
crazy.
likes your project so much that he just foams at the mouth and tells everybody about it, right?
Well, no, I'm talking about the one guy who's gonna FUD. It doesn't matter what's good, So we had that one guy, but after him, it was like a bunch of people just actually took the time to look at it and was like, "Whoa, what's going on here, guys? This is definitely something different." And then from there, it kind of snowballed. It just kind of just
And so this is
boom.
almost all this is all done by you, right?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. It's all
I
done
would
by me.
definitely
Like,
urge people to go watch these videos,
yeah,
if nothing
yeah.
else.
A lot of people think I broke out my network to make those. No, I did everything by myself. I'm breaking out my film network for this Kickstarter video. That's where I'm bringing in the heavyweights. I already
And
got my
that's why you
heavyweight
needed the
producer.
funding.
Exactly. Now I got my heavyweights on this, and it's like I'm very excited. Like I was just meeting with my partner in crime, the guy who I made most of my big projects with. I met with him yesterday. He's back from Virginia. Surprisingly, he's from Virginia. Interestingly enough, but he's back here in Chicago, and we're going to produce the crap out of this. Like this video and what we're gonna do is gonna be on another level. Like people will see why it is that we do, or essentially why I got the nickname Sollywood. I want to show people. I don't feel like that video was enough. We need to show people that we're not just talkers about this. We can actually bring together visuals that can really touch people in a way where they're opening their coffins to make this project a reality because they see the vision. They see that, yes, we will reach a mainstream audience, and that's exciting. So I'm definitely bringing out my heavyweights for this Kickstarter video, and we're really to craft in a way where it will not only you know inspire the crypto community, but it will inspire the American public. Yes, the mainstream Americans. And if you think when we accomplish that, if we accomplish that, it's not going to send BitShares project to the moon, then you simply don't understand what gets investors going. Investors love to hear, they love to hear that you have an audience with mainstream people. That is what makes them open up their coffins for Uber, for Snapchat, for all these companies that are raising well beyond their revenue streams, well beyond their actual revenue. Like the reason why they're able to raise all that money is because they have the audience. That audience is crucial to understand. And so we're reaching that same audience. We're saying we're going past the crypto world and we're going straight into that mainstream audience. So you got to
Lucky Bit
remember
says
that.
here, I hate to interrupt you, but Lucky Bit said going for raising millions of dollars.
Yes, yeah. So it's almost like a series of fundraisers, right? So the pre-sale was the first, the ICO is the second, the Kickstarter's the third. Take Lisk, for example, this new blockchain that's trying to be the next Ethereum. They raised $6 million altogether. That's great for their project because it's geared towards a certain demographic, which again is the programmers. That whole, their selling point. It was so funny. Their selling point was that Java is a lot more easier than the scripting language of Ethereum. That is technically true, but for programmers, that is no regular person knows Java. No regular person can even wrap their head around the Java programming language. But for who they're going for, it makes perfect sense. And so for that demographic, they were able to raise $6 million. For us, our demographic is mainstream people. That is why we're using the methods mainstream um, of mainstream tactics, explainer video, storytelling, Kickstarter. Those are the things that mainstream people understand. And so that is the group of people that we're trying to raise the big millions of dollars from. We're just allowing the crypto community to benefit on the financial side because they understand those instruments. They understand the innovation that happens because of getting in early, like BitShares or Bitcoin or Ethereum. It's the same thing here. Because you're in crypto, you understand the opportunity, whereas a regular person really doesn't. But they understand the opportunity of owning Sollars and being able to disrupt their cable system, which they absolutely want today. So, it's just about taking advantage of different demographics and how your project will appeal to them. That's simply what we're doing.
Now, one thing that a lot of people have brought up, well, I won't say a lot of people, but I'll say like 3 or 4 that I've read. One of their main things was the business model and how you can make money off of this, how you can monetize it. And another question was regarding storage of content. Can you speak to either of those?
Right. So what was the first question again?
Uh, the first question was the business model of Sollywood TV and how you plan on making a profit, essentially.
Oh, you're right. So the business model is pretty straightforward. Taking a 10 to 20% cut from all transactions that happen um, on the platform between content creator and consumer, which is unheard of in Hollywood. If you know YouTube's model, if you know Amazon's model, if you know Netflix model, you know that if you're even getting a cut, that their cut before you even get yours is between 50 and 70%. That's how much they're taking from you up front. That is if you get a cut. Some content creators are lucky to have their content be bought outright from like a Netflix or Amazon, which that market is very, very small for content creators who Netflix is. You have to be a Will Smith. You have to be a big timer to even get that kind of thing. But if you're getting a share of profits that come into your content, then most likely, unless you're a name star, you're probably getting between 35 and 25%. And that is not before your partners who are probably helping you are getting their kind of cut also. So our business model kind of flips that. Our business model kind of flips that and allows all content creators, regardless if you're a Netflix or whoever, to get 80 to 90% of whatever money Sollars is coming in for your content. And so, that's how that's the business model right there.
Lucky Bit is asking if Sollars is competing with Tidal.
Oh no, absolutely not. It's two different industries. And a lot of people, and we talked about that last time with the last hangout. The music industry and the Hollywood industry are two totally separate, different things. They cannot be conflated.
They're
It's
both in
just not.
entertainment, but they're different segments of the entertainment business.
Exactly. Yes, they're both in entertainment, but they are two different things. Music has largely been revolutionized, and the next revolution is being brewed now. The people are kind of positioning themselves, but since Spotify and the others have done so well in revolutionizing music and what can be done, people are like, it's like whiplash. It's like too much too soon for a lot of people. Whereas Hollywood is like, yeah, we've got Netflix, we've got YouTube, but we don't have that one thing that is completely just like upended everything. And that's pretty much what we're trying to do with new money, being that key. We're trying to completely upend the way that people can actually price their content and make that money and showcase what they have to the open market, to people who are willing to say, hey, you know what? That's an awesome ass price. It may not be the best quality, but God damn it, that price is the best thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And you know what? I'm going to support you. That's what we're doing here. Not just for the top of the market, but more importantly, the bottom of the market. You never start with disruption from the top. Never, ever happens. You have to start from the bottom.
Sully, there was one thing that you showed me a while back, and it was a video that I'll never forget. It was actually, I believe, in your video, because you have many of them, right? One of your videos. This video showed an actual, like, the Hollywood version of a building exploding, and then another one where, or these special effects. And you showed that an amateur, quote unquote amateur, used special effects software to essentially create a video of the same quality, a scene of the same quality.
Yeah, that's the original. We're going all the way back to 2013, 2014 when we created our original investor video for the product. That was when Sollywood TV was that was when it was more what we were focusing on and not the money aspect. Obviously they go hand in hand. They have to go hand in hand.
Yes,
but
of course.
You're absolutely right, Fuzzy. That original video, it was about 20 minutes long. That's 20 minutes long. But it did go into great detail, not only about because a lot of people worry, like how like how am I going to get, like, am I still going to get high quality content? You have to understand the amount of the amount of disruption that has happened at the production level. You got to remember, there's pre-production, production, post-production, and distribution. You see, disruption has already happened in pre-production, production, and post-production. The amount that it takes to shoot a really nice film, that's production. Actually going out and shoot, like, you can get a high quality camera now for under $2,000. The levels in film, the first three have already been revolutionized. You can get the same high quality VFX of Hollywood now cheap if you know what you're doing, right? So you don't need the millions upon millions of dollars to make a really nice film. The problem, though, is distribution. Distribution is where we need that ultimate new disruptive platform, right? Because
you mean the blockchain?
Even though yeah, exactly. Of course, it's going to be the blockchain, but people don't even need to hear that. All they need to hear is a brand that's simple, new money. They don't need to hear They don't need to hear any of that's all technology that can go in the background. All they need is a simple message. And so for us, that's new money. New money is the way that's going to help you monetize your content. It's the way that's going to help you pay for that new cable system that you wanted your entire life. There's no more waiting. It's here. It's called new money.
Solly, with regard to the distribution aspect of the project, I mean, I still see that there's some infrastructure that related to distribution. I mean, and that's what I'm not quite understanding, how you can disrupt that distribution channel. You can certainly disrupt it from a payment standpoint and making it cheap, and maybe that's the way you undercut the existing distribution channel. But there's a lot of players in the distribution, and I'm wondering how you're going to actually hone in on that. Is it just through making it cheaper for alternatives to it?
Yeah, so again, yeah, so that's a great question, Tom. So it's simply understanding the life cycle of a content creator. Remember, the future content creators are making content now. That's who we're starting with. And disruption never, ever, ever happens from the top. Doesn't matter any industry, never happens from the top. So for us, we're starting with the future generations that are going to be running these companies in the future anyways. That's who we're starting with today, because their life cycle, they need a way to start making money now, so that way of making money will boost them to the next level and to the next level and to the next. We're all like that. Steven Spielberg didn't start off as Steven Spielberg. He started off as a PA, somebody who was working on somebody else's set, somebody who was making films for other people. Those same
Being
people
yelled
right
at and told to
now,
get coffee.
right? Those same people right now need platform right now, because that's going to help them find a new route, monetizing their content and getting out there. Like I say in the, these are the people who can't get it, who can't make enough with YouTube, but have great talent, and still Netflix won't work with them because it's just not feasible for them right now, or they don't have a big or wide enough audience. These are the people that need something like this now, because again, their life cycle has them upgrading, right? As they make better and better and better content, they will eventually become those Steven Spielbergs, those J.J. Abrams, those Christopher Nolan's, those Denzel Washingtons and Daniel Day Lewis's, and whoever else has become something big. So for us, again, it's about starting with the market that needs this the most, and then building from there. Because although this may start as a product, obviously there's a platform A in the future. It's starting as a product for a very specific amount of people, but then that product will turn into its own platform, where we're not only just where we have our APIs, where you can connect to our payment systems, and we're not just hosting everybody's video, but now we're allowing through APIs for you to connect to our money system, connect to our video player, connect to this, connect to that. So, but that's down the road. Right now, we're starting as a specific product for a specific group of people because they need it most, And so while we're starting with that product, we want to make sure that the marketing side, right? The side of inspiring, the side of telling stories that people can connect to. We want to make sure that that is something that we're utilizing to our advantage.
Lucky Bit's asking here, what about reality TV? That's a huge market of amateur content. And
Yeah, of
what
course.
is
Yeah,
your thought?
of course. Reality TV, documentaries, all of that. As long as it's content, as long as it is content, it can be considered for a price. There's nothing that
Can
we
I ask you a
can't.
question?
Yep.
This is a question I've never asked you, but I think it's pretty important for a platform to consider it. What about people who are creating their own porn, their
I was
own,
gonna say no
God
porn.
knows what else?
Absolutely no porn. No porn. Absolutely not.
So what
Nope.
if, where does one draw the line with a movie that has nudity in it? You know what I mean? Like will there be a rating system where users could rate it, or how would you
Well,
see those?
Well, you have to look. Oh, I heard a great description. Well, I think it's called. Somebody said, and I'll post the article a little later, but it's basically the Netflix of Netflix. That's what we're trying to build here. Um, the place that has, that, and again, that's the platform play. That's the future. What people will know this as the Netflix of Netflixes, where it's got everything that you could possibly want, but we can't start that right away. So in starting right away, like you remember, Tom, we talked about this. You remember how it's like we have to start with a specific group of people, with a specific group of content creators that showcase the technology to the best of its abilities, and actually show people, oh, okay, this is how it's going to be used. Okay, I get this now. So that's where we're starting. We're not starting with everybody and everyone, and we're certainly not going to be allowing anything that can construe our brand to the negative. You got to remember, branding and perspective is a huge thing. If it, like, you can have the most innovative technology in the world, but if people perceive what you're doing as a certain type of thing, you will get, as we call in Hollywood, typecasted. Your project will get typecasted as such, and humans in general are very unforgiving once they have a negative view of what you're doing. So we have to pay attention to that, and we have to take that very seriously.
How do you
Yeah, that's a
keep out
good
the porn?
point.
That's PC and Lucky, but we're just talking about how you keep the porn out if this is a decentralized service of marketing everybody at the ground levels type of videos. Now, it's not everybody. You have a very specific niche market that you're going after, and that's what you just were describing. So porn does not fit in that niche, and that's why you're not focusing on it. But I still don't see quite how you will keep it out, because you're not, even though you're focusing on a certain niche, you're not necessarily trying to exclude people. So how does that work?
Right. So it's the same way that Roku keeps it out. So Sollywood TV, you got to remember, there's a dynamic here, right? So Sollywood TV is a startup. It's like any other startup, like Roku, it's like Apple TV, it's like any of those other platforms. But Sollars and Sense is going to eventually be its own blockchain. That's the decentralized part of this. But
So
Sollywood
once
TV
it
is
reaches a
not.
certain point of development and all these things are in place and have been tested in a smaller market, that's not something that might be considered more a general market and less, something that won't pigeonhole you into porn, for instance. Later on, that stuff, people who create content could pretty much add anything.
Yeah, eventually. I mean, if that happens down the road, again, the way we're going to build Sollywood TV, it's going to be a traditional startup. Sollars and Sense, again, is not a startup. It is like Peer Tracks versus Muse. Sollars and Sense is going to be its own blockchain eventually. It's going to be out there in the wild. Anybody can interact with it, get it, all of that good stuff that we know. But yeah, again, this is a Sollywood TV is a startup. That is what it is. But Sollars and Sense is not. It is a blockchain. It will eventually be its own blockchain.
So
So
Sollywood TV will only be one offering,
yeah,
kind of like
exactly. And
Peer
that's the
Tracks.
videos. Exactly. Yeah. And that's just one offering. And so that startup is going to be responsible for creating this video platform. Um, and of course, we're going to build it on BitShares first. And then eventually, when the timing is right, because timing is everything, when the timing is right and we have our marketing out there and people are really into this, then we can use that as a leverage to launch our own blockchain and take advantage of being next dollar, because we are never and will ever be the next Bitcoin. That is not our competition here. Bitcoin is not our competition. It's the dollar. That is our competition. We are not in competition with any other crypto. We are in competition with Father Dollar. Okay? This is Luke Skywalker versus Darth Vader. That is what this is. All right. Father Dollar, we're coming for you. That is how people should look at this.
Well
Lucky Bit says,
said.
so
That's
Sollywood
that's the
could
bottom
approach
line.
VCs and get private funding.
Sollywood TV, yeah, sure. We could raise, any kind of series A, B, C, whatever. People can own shares in Sollywood TV. They'll be able to do that. Not Sollars and Sense. The only way to own Sollars and Sense is owning the bonds, and that is what that is what people are donating to get those soul certs now, because those soul certs represent the bonds. And actually, when we launch the blockchain, people who are holding soul certs will actually get the Sollars of that system. They won't even get the bonds. They'll be the first to get the Sollars of that system. So we've created 10 million of them. And so when that blockchain launches, you won't need us. You won't need our permission, because it's going to be launched. It's all going to be open source code. When we launch that blockchain, just like we've done in BitShares here, there will be a way for you to claim your Sollars on that system. So you won't even have to interact with us. You won't even have to interact with us. It won't be something where you're interacting with us. You are interacting with that blockchain.
And Lucky Bit is asking, Sollars will get us content, premium content.
Yeah, that's their first utility. Remember, we want people to be using this currency right away. There is no waiting to get a mainstream audience, no hypothesizing about it. No, they're using it right out of the gate. So Sollars' first utility will be on Sollywood TV. That is where people, particularly millennials, will be using this currency. And what you're essentially doing right now, if you participate in our ICO, in our Kickstarter, what you're doing is you're allowing us to subsidize building that audience. Because if you look at Facebook, if you look at Snapchat, if you look at all the big platforms like Twitter, they always go for that user base before monetization. And there's a reason why they do that. Because once you have a user base, you can do whatever you want to do. You can raise however much money you want to do. And another example is Uber. All these platforms, the reason why they subsidize their acquiring their user base is because they know once they hit that 50 million, 100 million users, you can come up with any revenue model you want to, and we've already got one built in. We don't even need to come. We already have it built into the product. So
here's
what
one question with regard to hitting that. You're talking about network effect, and even though Bitcoin has the network effect, they can't do anything they want to. But I hear what you're saying with regard to the standard marketing means that people do, like Uber and these other things. The network effect is really important, and when you reach that certain critical mass, then you have a lot of control over what you can do with the people that are basically the substance, the value that you can offer to investors and doing the things you want to do. But it's a little bit different than that on a blockchain model, don't you think?
Well, actually, I don't. I think and that's why I always say when it comes to mainstream consumers, we're not even focused on blockchain. Blockchain is a word they're never going to hear from us. The only thing they're going to hear is we're taking down cable and we're providing a better system that allows you to do X, Y, and Z. And none of that includes the word blockchain, because it just works like Apple. It just works. And we're going to visually show that to them, and they're going to be able to interact with that in the app eventually. So for us, again, our utility is very focused. It's very focused on providing this platform of content and being that ultimate replacement to cable TV. That is our utility for Sollars and Sense out the gate. That will be our utility, and we will push that utility as much as we can into the $200 billion industry, because cable TV is a $200 billion opportunity, and it will stay that way for a while. Yes, a lot of that opportunity, a lot of the $200 billion market cap, that market cap is filled with content that shouldn't be being made because there's no demand for it. So if you say that the market is about, there's 30% of that content in that market that's being made or being subsidized, you get rid of 30%, and that's still 150 billion, in terms of market. So, and of course, as you know, Tom, we're not going to stay in Hollywood. That's just the Trojan horse. So at any point in time, we can go into commerce. We can go into X. We can go into Y. We can go into Z. But you have to have a foothold. Like Uber has a foothold in ride sharing. Like Facebook has a foothold in social media. Like like Amazon has a foothold. Amazon had a foothold in selling books. That's how it started. And now you see what they're doing now. AWS, drones, all these other industries that they've entered. But remember where they started. They started by having a foothold in selling books. That is what they started to do. For us, we're the same way. We're going to have a foothold in pricing content correctly to where a majority of consumers will buy that service, will buy that single content, or whatever the hell else it is you are selling. That is our foothold. That is going to be our foothold. And from there, we will build into any other industry we want to. But starting out, that's where we must start.
That's a hell of a vision.
Thanks, Tom.
I mean, it's basically, what you just outlined, and I kind of get something different than I have before. It's kind of the blueprint for an empire.
Yeah. I hate to sound like like Darth Vader right there, but yeah, you can look at it like that. It's certainly, we're certainly gonna have the Mark Zuckerberg of digital currency. Let's be honest. We're gonna have that. We're gonna have to have that in order for our industry to not only mature but to get mainstream people on there. You're gonna have the figureheads. Right now, Vitalik is doing a great job with that. Dan was doing a great job with that. I don't know if he wants to be that anymore, though. But the thing is, we're going to have people who represent the face of what digital currencies is to mainstream people. I'm sorry, mainstream people are not going to look at blockchain as a way to connect with what it is we're doing. They're going to look at other human beings. And I've said it for a very long time. I believe I am a human being who can do this technology very well in explaining it and in showing how it can have an impact on consumers' lives today. But the thing is, I need you guys. I need you guys to have my back in that, because I can't do this alone. I can't. I'm sorry. I'm not Superman. I'm Solo Man. So at the end of the day, I'm just a human being with a vision. And so as long as people can believe in that, I think we can do wonders.
Well, I think we started out pretty well this past week.
Somebody wants to answer. It's a good question.
This is a bit of a tough question, and it's just I'll just put it out there. You're talking about the vision and people getting behind you. Question is, can you get behind somebody else if it means carrying the vision forward?
That's a good question.
Can I get behind somebody else? I don't know.
It's a matter. His question deals with partnerships and the compromises that you often have to make. That's what I see it as.
Correct.
Is that reasonable, John?
Yes, that's right.
Well,
that's a good question.
It is a good question. I think that all depends on incentives, right? I think if the incentives are right or aligned with the ultimate vision, then yeah, I don't see a problem with that. I guess I don't fully understand the question.
Okay, let me elaborate.
Yeah, because there are a couple of different situations that this could kind of play out into.
Yeah, that's because there's a lot of scenarios that can happen.
Okay, well, I've been in business for over 20 years. I've been through many companies, and I've had to work with a lot of different types of people. In a lot of instances, sometimes some people I work with don't have the right characteristics to be a CEO, for example, or to be in a certain capacity within a company to carry it forward in the way that it needs to carry forward. For example, Microsoft. It wasn't too couple of years, I remember a while back that suddenly Bill Gates was no longer CEO. He pushed himself down to some creative department or something like that. And that's because that's where he was best suited to continue working in the company. He was willing to step back and let others carry on with the CEO work and so forth. So in this instance, with everything you're talking about, the grand vision and everything else, and what you're wanting to see accomplished and the vision being accomplished, do you have the capacity, the willingness, or the capability to step back if somebody comes in and says, we can carry this forward, Solomon, this is great, we believe in it, we want you to be a part of it, but you got to step back, you got to let us do this, 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 and this. Can you do that?
Okay, I see. Absolutely not. It's not going to happen, because why I'm doing this is not just for business. Again, I started this 5-6 years ago. Where we're starting in film and that whole thing, that whole industry. If you look at the articles I was writing back in 2012, back in 2013, they're relevant today and what's happening. Now I was just talking with my producer yesterday. The things we were writing, the things we were seeing back in 2012, 2013, they're happening now. And it's amazing. And that shows, and not only with that, but also with new money, even the brand new money and things that were happening last year. People forget all the stuff that I was saying now, or that I was saying back then, is happening now. We were just hypothesizing what would happen, and they're happening now. So for me, this project isn't just about business. I'm not in this just for the business. I'm in this for a movement. So I think, and that's again why we're choosing the route that we're choosing to fund, because we understand that the vultures exist. We understand that there are people with ulterior motives. We understand the way the business world, quote unquote, works. I understand that. And that is why, again, we are choosing to do what we're doing right now, because that gives us the best amount of freedom and leverage to build this movement. If you think this is just about technology, then you don't understand what we're doing. And that's not to you, Data. That's to anybody who's hearing this and thinks that, again, this is about blockchain. This is not about blockchain.
It's not just about blockchain and technology.
No.
What DSN has raised the question of is a business related question. So
right.
I really see that as distinct from the technology that's employed in that business.
Right. I agree. And so understanding that this isn't just a business, that this is more than that, I think will help others to understand why there is no Satoshi here. I'm not Satoshi. I'm not Satoshi Nakamoto. I'm not willing to give this. I'm not willing. Now that doesn't mean I'm not willing to partner. Of course. Oh, of course I'm willing to work with others. You have to work with others to make this happen. There is a reason why we have chosen the route that we've chosen to getting this funded. Because once you start doing your thing and you start proving that a market is there, now everybody thinks they can do what you can do better. That is life. That is what happens.
Hey, Saul.
But I'm sorry. You go ahead.
Just a question, because this question that Data brought up brings up some really good points to focus on with graphene itself. Have you given any thoughts to how that chain is going to be governed when it grows, or when the coin turns in, or the project turns into gets to the point where you can launch the actual platform?
Right, which I know a lot of people probably wondering. Well, like BM, I'm going to take the route of not trying to reveal too much, because one, we're not at that stage yet. I would love to be at that stage, but we're not yet. But two, I've actually written a little bit about it's a very high level view of the quote unquote. I'll use Ronnie's word.
Can you give us a taste?
Decentralized conglomerate. Well, like I said, I've written a whole blog post on it. Like, it's really detailed too, in terms of of what will be the decentralized conglomerate structure of what we'll be going for. I'll tell you this, okay? There will be no, like the U.S. government, the way to own quote unquote part of the quote unquote company that will be the alphabet to Sollywood TV's Google, will be owning again the bonds. The bonds will be the way that you own. There will be no shares in a company. Again, this protects the original vision. It protects the long-term roadmap that we have for this product and the other products that will be, like Tom mentioned. You know, you can choose to look at this as just Sollywood TV. Make that mistake. This is not some small project. This is not something that will, no, I have there is a long-term roadmap to turning this thing into the next Apple. I said it.
And if
the
somebody
next
wants to
Apple.
compete with
that
you,
is the vision here.
if somebody wants to
They
compete
can.
with you with this technology on that chain, they can.
Of course, why not? It's all open source. See, I believe my vision. I don't care about what you're doing. I didn't start this because of you. I started this to help filmmakers out. I started this as a passion. This is not just something that I'm in for the business. I'm in this for more than
Well,
that.
that's
So
obvious.
I don't care. Like I wish Dan well with bitches. I wish Vitalik well with Ethereum. These guys have visions. They have visions of how they believe things should be, and they went out there and they did that. I admire that. I admire people who do that. I'm the same way. I didn't start this because of them and their success. I started this because I really had a problem as a filmmaker making money. That's where I started.
So
ahead,
if I
Once.
bring this back to what Data was saying, sorry, Once Upon a Time, I just want to finish this and then I'll just shut up. But if somebody came to you and said, you know, we can bring this further, you could essentially then say, because of the model, if you don't want to work with them or you feel that they don't have a similar vision or that you think that they're going to fail, you wouldn't have to work with them. They could actually compete with you on that chain.
Yeah, why not? I mean, look, guys, this is not. We no longer have the unconstitutional Federal Reserve Act of 1913 playing. That is a law. That is not code. You know, this is a free market. You have to live with that. If you have a problem with my vision, it is very simple. Take code and do something else. Just like Lisk. Lisk did it with Ethereum. It's going to happen again, and it's going to happen again and again because we are dealing now with open source commoditized code. That is why, at the end of the day, what is going to connect with human beings is what you are saying, is what you are visually conveying. Because at the end of the day, yes, that is how you're going to connect. If you think some way, somehow, you're going to sell assets, sell technology to people, and they're going to connect with that, I'm sorry. You don't know what's going on. It's that simple.
Oh, man, well said.
I'd like to clarify something in regards to my question and the nature of it and so forth. Really, it was the question of, I mean, you've sold these soul certs. There are people who've invested in this. There are people with expectations now, and if somebody else comes along who is a big money player and they've got, let's say they're like, all right, we're going to put $5 million into creating this vision. We love your vision, Solomon. We want to see it happen. Here's how we're going to do it. We're going to put $5 million into getting this started. It's going to go all this way. You're the vision guy. Awesome stuff. We're going to assign a CEO to do this. We're going to assign a CTO to do that. You are going to step aside over here and you'll be our marketing spokesperson. That's where you're going to be. And then, and so forth. Now,
right?
Can you do that? That's my question. If you can do that, that's the nature of my question is, can you step aside, step back, and let somebody else who has the experience and execution to be able to carry that vision forward, rather than you saying, no, I don't think you got my vision, and they say, well, thank you very much, we're going to crush you like a bug.
No, I totally understand that, and I get where you're coming from. Trust me, Google has done it with other players. Uber is doing it right now with a company named Via. They've got their thing going on here in Chicago. I understand these things, but remember, The guy who started Snapchat, he could have sold to Facebook. Facebook that in the face of him created some competitor product that was supposed to stop Snapchat. Look, people, if you're going to have $5 million, what you're going to be doing is investing that in our bonds. You're not going to be investing it in trying to replace me, because again, I'm not replaceable in terms of the visionary, the founder of this project. That's not going to be the case. And I get it, the corporate structure, this and that, it's not going to happen. What's going to happen is what I've already stated, that people are either going to believe in where we're going, because again, I have a long-term vision, or they're not. This is not going to be something where somebody sees the business potential, comes in and says, hey, you know what? We love you, Solomon. Yeah, okay, we get the whole vision, this and that, but we're just going to regulate you to over here, and then we're going to do this over here. It's just not going to happen. Not because, again, I can't work with people, but because that is not why I started this. I didn't start this for that purpose. Some people have done it. That's their prerogative to take that on, and other people have not. Mine is to stick with this vision and stick with my long-term vision. I've been at this for 4 or 5 years now, so it's definitely not. I mean, it's tempting, trust me, but again, I'm not in this for the money. So $5 million, $10 million to walk. I'll tell you right now, $100 billion to walk away from this is not going to make me do it. You can believe what you want to, but it's never going to make me walk away from this, because this opportunity is $60 trillion.
So,
Or
Solly,
60 trillion dollars. What's up?
so Solly, since you're not replaceable, what legal entity is going to hold the life insurance policy on you so that investors can recoup their investment in case something happens to you?
Right, again. So those things, of course, that's the risk that you're taking now, right? There is nothing that's certain in life. That's never going to be the case. But we will have a structure. We still have to research the long-term implications of it. But there will be a structure. Again, Ethereum has got theirs. We at BitShares have got ours. We will also have ours when the time comes. But we will set it up where we'll be able to honor everybody's soul certs that has soul certs now. We'll be on the blockchain will be able to honor that in a way where people will be able to claim what they have without our input. Again, this is open
And out of
source technology,
curiosity,
and if it has to be something where, wait, let me just
just
finish
real,
this out. And if it's something where, go ahead, Fuzzy.
well, just real quick, the
Go-
Kickstarter, what are the funds are any of those funds going to be available if you reach the millions of dollars to help pay back some people, or how's that going to work?
Right. So legally, I can't really speak on that. But because U.S. laws are not quote unquote super clear, and so it's a little premature to have that conversation. But again, the default way people will get paid Sollars is its own blockchain. That is the default way when Sollars
Okay.
becomes its own blockchain.
Okay.
But so you can either, again, I can't, because here's the thing that always happens. I'll say something, right? I'll disappear for 2-3 months, pop back up, things go. That's how it's been. So I'm saying this again. So nobody can say, oh, you didn't say. This is not the next Bitcoin. This is the next dollar. If you believe the dollar is going to be here forever, then this is probably not the project that you want to be following. If you don't believe that, then you should probably pay attention. Because again, when the dollar gets replaced, Americans are going to need to use something different. When anybody who's Americans or American culture, we are lazy when it comes to learning new things. If you think Americans are going to try and learn the this and that, blockchain, this and that, then you might as well get ready for whatever new currency that they're going to introduce into the world, because that's what they're going to pick up.
Be entertained by movies.
Right. So my thing is, Sollars and Sense smart money. There is nothing to learn for 95% of the world that understands the American dollar. Sollars is an automatic understanding. It was so funny. Last week I was downstairs with my doorman and a bunch of other people just talking about Bitcoin and different things. They hadn't heard of it. And so, I kind of did the experiment that we started 2-3 years ago, trying to prove that Sollars and Sense Smart Money was a great brand. I did it again just to see, said Sollars and Sense Smart Money. Do you understand? So somebody who never even heard of Bitcoin, this and that, she was like, yeah, I see what you did there. It was a girl. I see what you did there. This and that. And I tried it with a bunch of people just to see if people would get it. It's still the case today. People automatically get what it is that we're doing. And that is I'm telling you, that is a very, very crucial thing to adoption. Mark my words on that. When it comes to adoption, it's going to be crucial.
A simple message that makes sense to people is very powerful. I can't deny that. I don't think anybody can argue with it.
With regard to kind of going back to Data Security Node's question about, what mechanisms we use, what partnerships we use to achieve your goals, and you drew a very clear distinction in your answer to him that you are not going to give up your controlling interest. I think that's really a crucial question, because anytime an investor says, "Hey, I've got $5 million, I want to help you," it's always, what are you going to give them for that $5 million? And what you just described was you are not willing to give up controlling interest.
And can I really quick say
That's very
something?
important.
Tom, real quick, I'm not sure, but what I'm thinking here, and I want Solly to tell me if I'm wrong or right. In the peer tracks model, if you get Muse, then you don't really get shares in peer tracks, though that peer tracks is a business that's going to drive value to Muse. Now, if what Sollywood is to Solomon is he kind of gives the analogy of peer tracks for Muse, then wouldn't that mean that why would he want to give up? Because other people could compete on the same chain with him, and he wouldn't be the one controlling that chain. It would simply be something that ends up having its own governance structure.
Well, you're talking blockchain specifics when you talk about governance structures and things, and maybe there's some relationship here. But I'm really focused more on what
my
Jonathan
question is: should Cobb give up peer tracks if he's approached by a wealthy investor?
Tom, that's what he described is exactly right. Sollywood TV will be a traditional startup, so yes, control will be, we'll raise seed rounds. People will be able to invest in that and that whole thing. It's the Sollars and Sense, right? So that's not going to be able to, the long-term vision of the larger blockchain, and the way it's going to be structured, and that I have a long-term vision for that. So hopefully God sustains me to see that long-term vision. If not, I know where I'm going. I don't care, So that is not a concern to me. My concern is reaching the people with a message that will resonate with them. Everything else is a added bonus for that, because if we don't have the people, then none of this even matters.
I agree.
None of this matters.
I'm trying to put my head in Jonathan's perspective and DSN's perspective, and looking at it from a business standpoint. And what you're trying to do is say it's beyond business. Well, but there's still business concerns that have to be addressed here. So I'm trying to kind of marry the two together here and get a straightforward answer that everybody can understand for where you're all coming from.
Yeah, no, Tom, I don't want to, you guys know. I'm huge on the business development aspect of understanding these cryptocurrency projects. I think that's what's lacking in a lot of them. So I'm not ignoring that. Of course, that is part of this and will be part of this. If people want to own shares in Sollywood TV, that will be the case, as it's going to be a traditional startup. But if you want to own shares in the blockchain, that's not going to happen. You can own its bonds. Like the U.S. government, you can own its bonds, but you can't own its political infrastructure. That's what the people do. This will not be set up. So kind of
like when Data said the other day, you can't control BitShares. It's the same thing.
Right.
Exactly. And does that answer your question at all, Data?
Did you hear Fuzzy, Jonathan, on his question back to you?
Yeah, I heard that, but it's not really... Blockchain is only as valuable as what it does and its usefulness. So getting into the semantics about, a blockchain being distributed, doesn't really have anything to do with the execution of a good idea.
I agree. That is 100% correct.
And where we're
Execution
trying
is
to
everything.
figure out is
You can have a million. Go ahead,
what you're saying is essentially is your vision and what you believe for your potential efficiency of executing this. You don't think that there are people out there who would be able to match what you are trying to create, but data's saying there are people out there who might want to and who might say, you know, we're either going to destroy you or we're going to work with you and that's the only choice you have. Is this is this correct or am I incorrect?
I don't think anybody walks into things like that saying we're going to destroy, like thinking they're going to destroy you. I know a lot of people like to think that's maybe there are some people out there like that, but that hasn't been my experience. My experience has been generally business people who are looking to work in good faith will seek out partnerships because it doesn't make sense for them to reinvent the wheel. They want efficiency. They want to be able to get things done, and it's all about execution and doing it right. So if somebody else has already created a wheel, they're going to work with the guy that already has a wheel. So it's not about looking to crush them, but if they go to the guy and say, look, we'd really like to work with you, and the guy's like, well, I don't need you. I've got, what I need to do with my wheel. Then it's
well,
like,
yeah.
But that's not. But
there actually are people in business that do look at it from a monopolistic standpoint. The Rockefellers are key in this, as far as that attitude is concerned. You're right. There are both types of people out there in the marketplace. People that want to work cooperatively, that are not out there to stamp everybody else out. But there are other predators that don't look at it that way, that want to just get every bit of control they can, and it's about building an empire. So I mean, when I say building an empire, I'm saying that there's two ways to look at that. You can look at it from Solly's standpoint, which is to get a mission accomplished, and you can look at it from a Rockefeller standpoint that says, I just want to control everything.
Yeah, exactly. That is exactly right. But Data, you're making the mistake of conflating two different views. Whereas you switched from this being something where it's a control issue to it being something where it's a partnership issue. I never said, again, I'll repeat, if it's a partnership thing, you see things that can happen. Look, I'm not perfect. Nobody is. We all need others to help us out. We are open, very open to working with others to make the next dollar. We're open to that. Of course we are. But you can't conflate that with the other view, like Tom is saying, that you're coming in to want to control where this is now going to go. That is not going to happen. But it is absolutely going to be the case that we are going to partner and work with anyone and everyone who sees the vision and wants that to get somewhere. Does that mean that I'm not going to have, I mean, just look at TA, Travel Asia. He came in and he completely helped us reconfigure how we were going to do the ICO. We were having and anybody can go look and view that conversation. He came in, explained, because he was an investor. He explained to me how things could be better. I listened, and we made those changes, and look at the beauty that came from that. That is what I do. I am a compromiser if it's going to help the project out. But if this is something where people are just going to come in and think, oh yeah, I've got a better vision for this, I'll pay you this to give us control, it's not going to happen. Period.
No, sorry. That wasn't what I meant. I mean, if they were to come in and say, we believe in the vision, we'd like to work with you, this money is not to have you just paid off and walk away. I mean, that's la la land. The truth is the money would go into the execution of the project itself. Like $5 million goes into the project. So they would say, like, I mean, when I'm saying that, yeah, it's VC basically. I mean, and when I talk about, I understand, Tom, that there's other bad people in the world. I'm just telling you from my experience in dealing with a lot of people that They're not coming in looking to destroy. They're coming in looking for the best way to get
They're
things
afraid
done.
of your bunker data.
they just want to be sure they can come when everything goes down.
They need assurances. They're putting money in. They need
Exactly.
assurances.
But the thing is that, I mean, the truth is that a business, a vision, it's a baby, and you have to think of it in terms of what is best for it. And sometimes one of those parents of the baby is not best for it. And so you have to have the capability and capacity to be able to say, you know what, this person over here is better for this baby, and they need to be the ones that are taking care of it. I'm willing to let it go and just let them be able to carry it forward and have that baby grow. That's the nature of growing a business. And that's the nature of my question is that something that you can would be happy to do in order to see the vision grow, versus wanting to be the front man, wanting to be the one that executes everything, wanting to be the one that says what's going to happen at every single stage?
I'm very open to working with others to make what it is my vision happen best possible way. But that vision will not change, and my position in the project will not change.
It's really a matter of negotiation, because looking at it from a business standpoint, you've got an investor with a lot of money that says that he's willing to carry the vision forward, and you have Solly, who knows the vision. He's the inventor of the vision, and you've got a negotiation. It's a matter of each party in making a trade between the investor's money and carrying out the vision. It's a matter of convincing each other that they're capable of doing what they say. If in the matter of the investor, it's a matter of them saying, or I should say of Sollywood, of Solomon, he's got to judge whether that investor is being true in their statement that they're going to carry the vision forth. And in the matter of the investor, it's a matter of them trusting that Solly is going to do it without wasting the money. So it's really a matter of negotiation and working that out between the two parties.
And Tom, that's exactly what TA and I did. TA was an investor in my project, didn't think that things were the best way to do it, and we went back and forth, and we had a great compromise, and it worked out for both parties.
But is it important to define rather, because it sounds to me like there's two projects here. So your answer can't be the same for both of them, can it?
Wait,
I think this is a very important aspect of what, and this is why I wanted to get in there beforehand. Solly,
but
Lucky
you're
Bit
talking about
brought this
Sollywood
up.
TV versus Sollars and Sense, right?
Yeah, and in the context,
Yeah, you're talking about Solly, right? That's
in the context of both of these, to answer Data's question, because the answer I suspect will be different for both of them.
exactly. That's why I say you want to know the vision of how the decentralized conglomerate will be from a high level perspective. Please read the second part of the Soul Search series. It goes into that in depth. Sollywood TV is a traditional startup, so it's going to be owned with shares. It's going to be owned, in that way. Sollars and Sense is not. That's going to be owned by the system's bonds. So, it's really
And where do they find that blog,
in a very
Solly?
simple sense. I can post it. Hold on.
Well, just for people listening too, just the blog's name, the actual
they can
blog
go
address.
Yes, they can go to newmoney.sollars.com, and it's the second part of the Soul Cert or Funding Ourselves Out of Thin Air series, part 2. That is the way. Again, it's a very high level concept-wise of how things will be structured. It does not go into super detail because that's not necessary. As long as people get the base of how all of this will be structured, it's like Alphabet to Google. That's the same thing with the whole Sollars and Sense, a company that will be in charge of pulling keeping the code base, all of that. It's the same thing here, and that company will not be owned with shares. The way to own that company is with bonds, and right now the only bonds we have issued is the Soul Cert or representative of that. So that is the vision that I have. It's worked before in the past. It still works today, and it worked for the United States government since 1913 or whenever else other people were issuing bonds. So we're taking that same structure and we're making it smarter for our project. Some people may not like that. That's what we're doing, and that's why it's the vision that I've got, and not what other people have. At the end of the day, you have to own your vision.
I
and
don't
I do.
want to.
I
want to
own
make sure
the responsibility for structuring this.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, man.
Oh no, you're good. I just wanted to say
There's a little
I've thought long and hard about a lot of these issues. This is not something new that I just started like last week. I always say it. It's not something that I just started last week. I've been in the tech entrepreneurship realm for the last 5-6 years, and it's been amazing, and it's been hard, but it's been very eye-opening, and it's helped me a lot to understand the way things can be structured or not. Nothing is new under the sun. There's no thing new that has not been tried before. It's just we have new tools to make things different. That's the only thing. But we're essentially creating the same kinds of systems that we've already had. Governments, it's just now they're automated, on a blockchain. So for me, we're choosing that. Go ahead, Fuzzy.
Well, and I'm not trying to interrupt. I just wanted to try to boil this down because I don't want us to get lost in the minutia of it. I would like to try to help us define where these questions are applied, because Data's asking some very valid questions, obviously. And everybody here is appreciating it and speaking out themselves, and that's great. But the one thing that's like, as soon as Lucky brought it up, he really found a way of boiling it down into something that I've been trying to say, but he's brought it down to a sentence: Sollywood TV or Sollars and Sense. So that's kind of where I'm not trying to interrupt you guys. I just feel like this is a good basis for the conversation. And Data, can you answer, like, are you talking about the chain, or are you talking about Sollywood TV, or are you talking about both? And how do you see this playing in?
My question was really directed at Solomon. It wasn't directed at any particular project.
Oh, you see, but then that's how it gets confusing, because if you're talking about Sollywood TV, of course you're going to give up control, because that again is a startup. You're going to make the negotiation with your investors who understand that vision, and you're going to do what Cobb did with PeerTracks, or what Mark Zuckerberg did with Facebook. You're going to give up control in exchange for funding that will help that product progress and grow. When it comes to Sollars and Sense, though, there is no shares to give up, because again, it's its own blockchain and will live on its own self. And the people that will be in charge of funding that will all be open source, and will be a foundation, will be a non-for-profit foundation. So the way all that structure is going to play out, investors will have their incentives or not to pursue the project. But at the end of the day, we don't just want investors to be traditional VC investors to be putting money into this. We want regular, everyday Americans to be putting their money. And with the new Title III Jobs Act, they can do that. And we'll be able to set that up where regular, everyday Americans will also be able to benefit from a system like this. Again, we just have to create the content that helps them understand why it is that we're doing what we're doing. And we have to create it at the right time. This can't be something where we just step out and say, hey, guys, new dollar hair, and we're going to take over. No, that's stupid. That is foolish. That is what a lot of currency projects have done today, and that's why they failed. You have to provide an actual utility first. Have people see that utility, have them trust that utility, and then you can gradually build to other things. Like Tom mentioned, that's exactly what we're doing here. Yeah, some people will look at it as an empire play, but hey, what can I say? The world is the way that it is, And so, again, I'm just blessed to even be able to sit here and talk with people who have supported me and who have made this go from an idea to actual, funds. It's insane what we've done. And I hope people realize that. I hope you realize we've done something very special over the last 2 weeks. It's essentially what Ethereum did in their first 2 weeks. We've done the same exact thing. And so now we're in the midst of pooling an Ethereum, and we cannot stop now. We have to remember the long-term vision of what this is. And so who better to push this than the guy who started it? I just don't see I just see it. I don't see who else will have that kind of voice, a kind of impact, that the positive impact, not just an impact, positive impact, than what it is that we're doing here. So
what if somebody comes to you, Solomon, says, Solomon, this looks really good, but I got 5 million in Ethereum and you got to start this on Ethereum. What do you do?
Right. Now that's a great question. I love that question. So for me, I've said it beforehand that I do not like Ethereum's. Anybody who's been following knows I do not like the economics of Ethereum. Ethereum is great technology. Don't get me wrong. It is great technology for a specific reason. But me personally, I love Vitalik. I don't like their economics. Would never, ever work for our project. BitShares, on the other hand, the Linux of financial tech. Yes, that platform. That is why I'm still here. That is why the only two programmers that have ever inspired me, and they're both named Dan, is Dan Larimer of BitShares and Dan Fusilier of eMoney. And the eMoney is only because their algorithm, their stabilizing algorithm is amazing. But those are the only two programmers that I even consider when it comes to open source technology, because they work the best for what it is that we're trying to do. And I think Fusilier should come. I think Fusilier should come here and talk a little bit sometime about their platform and what it is that they're doing. But again, for their platform, it's just about the stabilizing algorithm. That's the thing that really captured my mind. Yeah, both Fusilier and Larimer started their projects back in 2013 on Bitcoin Talk and got so much crap, but they left and they created their own things, and it's amazing to see what they've done. So Ethereum is not it doesn't really float my boat. It really doesn't. If it did, I'd be over there. But it doesn't. There's a reason why I'm at BitShares, and it's not because, I just need to know. The actual technology behind BitShares and the way that it's structured is actually very, very beneficial to what we are. Exactly, Lucky. Ethereum, and Lucky, we were saying this last year. We were saying Ethereum, economic-wise, does not scale. Again, it does not scale. It's that simple. Economic-wise, Ethereum doesn't scale. It's great tech, but it doesn't scale. BitShares does scale. So for me, it is better to be here because, again, it's the best technology for what we're doing than to be over there. So they can come with 5 million. It'd be like, okay, you might as well just buy BitShares and or you can buy Bitcoin and invest in SolSearch or Solid bonds. I mean, that's the best way. Listen, the best way to invest in this project is to own the bonds. It's that simple. It's not complicated. You have nothing to do with the vision. The vision is going to be executed. And if you believe in it, if you believe the next dollar is a reality, then instead of trying to come and offer me Ether to go over there, you might as well put your Ether in a SolSearch or a Solid bonds, because now you got both Ether and the new next dollar. This is a wide open market. This is not going to be one to rule them all. We can all benefit. We can all eat. Guys, there's $60 trillion left to go. We're still in billions. We're still talking about billions, guys. There's 60 trillion left.
What if it's Vitalik and he has a box of chocolates and a bottle of rum?
Well, I've had a conversation with Vitalik, as I've said before. Back in 2013, he came to Chicago, and I had a conversation with him. And honestly, I like him a lot, but he doesn't really. I'll take the chocolate, but he doesn't really. He didn't really float.
You don't want to take his 5 million.
You don't want to take his 5. Well, you talking about the 5 million ether?
I mean, $5 million worth of
The
F?
ether? I mean, it's very simple. Put that. The only thing I would tell them to do is put that into either soul certs. Well, there's not enough to put it into soul certs, but just put it into the bonds when we launch. You might as well just do that instead of, you know, giving it to me. You know, it's that simple.
That's very
you know?
interesting.
Don't look. Yeah, it's like the U.S. government. It's the same thing, guys. This is not complicated. You buy U.S. government bonds, their treasury bonds, their bills, their T-bills, or their bonds to receive dollars later. It's the same thing here. You think this project's going to be awesome? Go buy the bonds. It's the same thing. There's no difference. You think this project could be amazing? It really is going to be the next dollar? You might as well go put your Ether, your BitShares, your Bitcoin, your whatever into the bonds. Don't give it to me. Put it in the bonds. Because it's not me. It's that.
Data, are you saying kind of like this is like a carrot dangled over his head in this situation where if we
That's what it
approach you
sounds
with
like.
this $5 million worth of F, and you say yes, then we're going to work with you. If not, then we're going to compete with you.
Well, no, it wasn't necessarily a we'll work with you or compete with you question. It was more of a would you feed the baby question. Because I think that if I was presented with that type of opportunity, I would approach it differently. I see Ethereum very much as a sandbox, and that's pretty much what it's good for. And I think that if we were to develop applications going forward and there was some kind of a desire to have it cross over into the Ethereum space, if anything just for media attention or something like that, then I would be open to actually having it developed on Ethereum so that it could be sandboxed there, so that once it does get there, then move it over to BitShares, and that in itself would be an event as well. I mean, in terms of media attention and so forth. So it would be a means to an end, in a sense, to feed the baby to get it executed.
Right. And so, Data, that's the difference between you and I, because you don't understand the economics of what Sollars and Sense is supposed to be. You know, it wouldn't be able to work under something that calls itself oil. This whole idea of you needing to put in more to even work. That would never, ever work for a system like Sollywood TV. And again, that's the difference of why I must be the one doing the vision, because it's my vision. And I understand.
Is it because of industry experience, the industry itself?
Yeah, not only that, just long-term understanding of what we're trying to do. You know, Ethereum would be a terrible system for what we're trying to be, which is the next dollar. What
about Ethereum as a stepping stone? Is that kind of what you're getting at, Data? Is it just one place along the path of getting the vision met?
Yeah, perhaps I wasn't clear. I was saying that Ethereum is a sandbox, and that's where I started from. It's a place where you develop, you get things tested, and so forth, and then once it's ready for production, move it over to BitShares, which is what I said. And
that's the virtual machine, right?
Well, yeah, it's a virtual machine, but I mean the development of applications,
which is an Ethereum.
Yeah, and I mean we could have an Ethereum machine as part of the development, couldn't we? So
yeah,
I'm just saying
who wants an Ethereum machine? This isn't about Ethereum. This is about American people. This is about going to mainstream people. Nobody cares about. Again, this is not about blockchain. Like, we're taking the Apple approach. That's what I'm trying to tell you. All of that's all side stuff. That's all. Honestly, it's all. It makes no difference. People don't care about that.
That's correct. And by doing this, you're feeding the baby so that you can actually accomplish that.
I guess you can look at it like that. Again, I would stick with where we're at now with BitShares, because it's got everything that we actually need. And at the end of the day, we have to go to a mainstream audience. Unless Ether, that's why we're holding the ICO. That's why we're holding all these things, so we're able to fund that. So we're able to actually execute that. Which now we're definitely going to be able to execute that. We've made successful Kickstarters for way less than what we've raised, so that's very encouraging. We'll be able to really go all out for this. But you got to remember, it's a different audience. Ethereum has not reached the mainstream audience. They haven't. People don't know about Ethereum, and and as much as I love Vitalik and what they're doing, they've actually done a really good job with marketing to their demographic with programmers and people who are building applications. They've done a fantastic job. I give my hat off to that team, but they have no clue about what it's going to take to reach mainstream everyday people, and they would actually need me. If you look at it, they would rather have a play. You're right. They would rather have a platform like what we're trying to do on their platform because it has so much mainstream appeal when it comes to the digital currency. So I wouldn't be surprised if 6 months, a year down the road, I get approached by some Ethereum people. I would not be surprised at all. There are some very smart people at Ethereum. That is very true. And as I said, they've done a phenomenal job when it comes to marketing to their demographics. And those people are just regular startup people. A lot of those people in Ethereum are regular startup people. We deal with them every day here in Chicago and Silicon Valley. They've done an excellent job, and my hat off to them. But again, the way that I see it, there's an independent vision. If they would like to get in on that vision, they can. Anybody can. BitShares can. Anybody can. But if it's something where come to our platform, do this, leave the, this isn't Willy Wonka. You remember Willy Wonka, like the guy who was trying to get everybody to like betray Willy, the guy who was going around, asking everybody to, hey, do this when you get to Willy, all of that good stuff. That there's going to be none of that here because at the end of the day, that's not why I'm doing this. And at the end of the day, BitShares was there with me from the beginning, through all the struggles, all of that. So that's how I see it. That's how it's going to stay.
So I'm assuming, like, if this were if using a virtual machine to act as a sandbox for testing this stuff, wouldn't be using the Ethereum virtual machine, would you be open, I guess, to other ones that might be available that are not the F virtual machine? Because we've talked about the value of BitShares having a virtual machine to test multiple chains in. So things like this could be something that would help not only Sollars and Sense as a chain, but it would also help the community, the broader ecosystem, and in return, give a good bit of love back to at least the brand of Sollars and Sense.
Right. So yeah, that will all depend. It all depends. There's so much, and we all know this as BitShares, as long-term BitShares community members. So much can happen, such can change when you're doing a project of this size. So of course I don't want to say no because again, a lot can change, but you have to be somebody who stands on principles, somebody who stands for something, and I do. So when it comes to that, I mean, business is business at the end of the day. So whatever's the best for our business is what's going to happen. And if that's developing in a virtual machine, there's nothing wrong with that. But there is something wrong with launching on a chain that doesn't have the right economics for Sollars and Sense. That's just that's what they say. Better call Saul. Actually, in inertia, that's we were gonna shoot something. Shh, don't tell anybody, but we're actually gonna shoot something like that. Better call Saul. Later in the year. Just a funny. Again, that's what's gonna connect with people, man. That is what's gonna. That's funny that you mentioned that, inertia. We were gonna shoot something like that. That's what's gonna connect with people, though. Don't just make everything all. No, we have to have fun, guys. We have to show that this community is about having fun, and I'd rather do that with guys than do that
That's the
with
human element, baby.
Exactly. I'd rather create that atmosphere with you guys than go over to a platform that I know that has no history with me, that has nothing but a transaction. For me, this is more than that. Again, I have no doubt. Yeah, I have no doubt that we'll do what we need to do. We have the funds to do it, and we're going to get more when the ICO comes. because we're really going to do it correctly in the right way where, we're out there with articles and all that other stuff. So right now we need to focus on coming together for next week, because when next week start, it's going to take all of us, right? Everybody who's invested, everybody who's put in their time, put in their effort to push this out, to really push this out. Because again, we are at the start where we have pulled off so far the same thing Ethereum pulled off that January of 2014 when they launched that video. We have done essentially the same exact thing. We've done the same exact thing. So now we have to continue that snowball. Just continue it down the road. And so I think that's something that we can execute. And I'm very excited to be executing it with you guys. So, yeah.
And the next stage is going to be essentially creating the buzz between the community members with the quests. And in addition, later on this summer, you're going to have the Kickstarter.
Exactly. Yes. And so we're already starting to build the front end application interface for that. We'll be going down to Virginia to shoot with the team. Cobb's going to also be part of that. And so, again, we're starting to shoot the videos, shoot all those elements. And it's very high quality stuff. And so the ICO is just going to accentuate what we've done so far. And obviously, as Fuzz has mentioned, we're going to have quests this time. We're going to be giving people soul search to do certain things, like have our signature stuff in their signature, like have our project, sharing stuff, sharing the articles. We're going to have a Forbes article and all kinds of other things. So this will be a lot bigger this time around than the pre-sale. The pre-sale was just to see how people would react, and they've reacted very, very well. And again, I appreciate you guys so much. That's why it's like, you got to stick with those who are with you, man. You got to. You can't be that guy, okay? Don't be that guy.
You can't be that guy.
Don't be that guy.
Well, I think at times that's a lesson for all of us.
That's right, Joey.
In order for your full vision to come to fruition, what changes have to be made to the U.S. Constitution?
That's a great. Once upon a time, that's a great question. So, I think the biggest thing that would have to happen is, so you can look at that two ways, right? So you can look at it from a demand perspective. So if you look at the history of America, you'll see that
the question. I'm sorry, but you guys lost me on that one. I'm sorry, Paul.
Well, I consider bit silver and bit gold to be compliant with the U.S. Constitution, but I don't really know whether Solly's vision is. So I'm asking if there would need to be changes made to the
thing
monetary
that seems really odd to me about the question is that I mean, I've never heard anybody put the question forward about the Constitution relating to what we're doing with cryptocurrency. That's the thing that throws me in left field.
Right. But it's you agree though, Tom? It's a really good question, right?
Well, I'm trying to wrap my head around the question. It kept me from left field.
Well, it's interesting because I have a certain context that I understand it in. That's why I'm going to answer it that way. So once upon a time, it's very simple. The U.S. Constitution says nothing about currency, and there's a reason why. If you look at, first of all, the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, again, I
got to interrupt you there. The Article 1, Section 10 of the U.S. Constitution does say something about currency, and that it can only be in gold and silver coin.
Well, okay. So here's my thing. Ignored. So you have Lincoln issuing the greenbacks, right? You have what essentially before 1913, what we had was various versions of free banking, where banks or really anybody could issue their own currency as long as it was backed by something,
complementary currencies.
Right. So
that's true.
The Federal Reserve Act of 1913 is an unconstitutional law. It was back then, it is today.
Yep.
So,
absolutely.
Right. So if you want to talk about what law needs to be changed, that needs to be one, declared unconstitutional, or two, they need to abolish the IRS. But you see, that to me, honestly, once upon a time, that's a distraction. Because here's the truth. If you can get the American people en masse to use an alternative, then all that becomes meaningless. Because that I
Yep.
was gonna mention, there's never been the case where the American government has won against the American people when it comes to fighting or movements or whatever. American people always win. It was true back then. It is true now. The problem is you gotta get the American people to want to demand whatever it is that you're talking about. And that's the hard part. But the easy part is once it happens, it doesn't matter what law. It doesn't matter
You got to
what law
break
you
the psychological conditioning is what you got to do.
Exactly, Tom. Yes, that is what I'm talking about. If you can break
And
that
how do they
psychological
condition
conditioning,
people?
I
Through
mean,
video
you're born into
and
Well,
through audio content.
Exactly, Fuzzy. That is 100% true. That is the best way. The best way to influence people is with visual and audio content, which I just so happen to be very good at. You know, I've been doing it for a very long time, very long time. I've earned my dues in this industry. And yes, I know how to make video content. And yes, once upon a time, I do have plenty. I'm not just talking about one. I've got plenty of videos to be made over the next 2 years that have to deal with these subjects and I'm talking about pull at the heartstrings of Americans. And it's very interesting because now we're entering into a time where they're talking about raising interest rates. The Feds are talking about raising interest rates. That's going to hurt the economy. People are going to start hurting to where they want people to give a solution. And I'm telling
And they're
you
also
that we're going
starting to talk about regulating free speech.
Let's not even, again, that's why you're going to people are going to demand an alternative to these oppressive ways because it's simply not it's not in our DNA, man. It's not. Americans, we don't have the DNA of submitting ourselves to people who think they're tyrants, people who think it's just not us. That's not how we were built. Yeah, a large portion of our society now does like, but it still remains the case that the overwhelming majority of Americans simply don't subscribe to the whole oppression or forcing people to think like you, or we just don't get down like that. I'm sorry, we don't. So when it comes to your question, it's that simple. You can talk about the Federal Reserve Act in 1913 and abolishing the IRS. But at the end of the day, I mean, you got to get to the American people. If you do that, then there's nothing the government can do. I mean, they can try, but if you want to set yourself against a society that has 150 million registered guns, and that's just the registered one, be my guest. See how we react.
You're forgetting about the unregistered computers.
That's what I said. With 150 million registered guns, that does not include the unregistered ones. So if you want to come against
the other
us,
force multiplier.
Right.
Computer.
Yep, that too. So I mean, go ahead, have fun at it. That's why I always say, once this becomes a story, and if it does, and if we can create that story, and come on, guys, we're doing something so inspirational right now. We're all voluntarily coming together to create something different. If you don't think that's going to resonate in a society right now that thinks the American dream is dying, we're literally proving that it's not. Some guys on the internet together come on, guys. You got to look at the bigger picture right now. We're creating something special that will inspire people. If you don't believe it's going to, then hey, man, that's your own problem. But that's what I see, man. I see this as an opportunity to do what people only think of, and that's actually make a difference.
The emotion in your voice as you described that just now is worth its weight in gold, because that is what gets people hooked, is that emotion, that connection.
And that
right.
passion.
But you can have emotion which stirs up a revolution, as in the French Revolution. As opposed to the American Revolution, and the French Revolution stirred up all kinds of emotion, but it deteriorated within a very short time into an absolute tyranny, and then that was only overcome by having Napoleon claw his way to the top.
The emotion gets people motivated, but you're right. There has to be substance, because emotion itself is not intelligent, does not rational, and we can do some crazy ass things because of that. So you've got to have some substance behind it. That's where the vision comes.
You have to have focus.
The emotion is just a way of getting things moving.
Yeah,
Energy to harness.
Emotion
But you
must
guys-
be harnessed by reason. Exactly. Motion is like a racehorse, and it has to be guided, and
Yep.
reason has to have the reins.
Yes.
I agree. And you guys know where I stand. Like I said, we have a responsibility, and I still believe that. I'm an American, and I believe in our system. It's not perfect, but I believe it really is a great way of getting people, for anybody to be who they want to be. That's my message. It's been that before. It's been that now. I'm an American, like a real one, not just I believe in the U.S. Constitution. I really do. It is the one thing that allows us all to do whatever the hell we want to do in terms of making something of ourselves, coming from wherever you come from in the world, and actually being able to make something of yourself. And we're literally doing that right now. A guy came up with an idea, and people freely, voluntarily, are funding that idea. That's a powerful statement. That's a very powerful statement. So to me, it's like, hey man, you guys have seen me for the last. I'm still the same person, man. I really am. I still. Go ahead, Tom.
This is kind of an aside, but it kind of starts to relate with what we're talking about here in terms of government and constitution and philosophy of that. I mentioned to you that I was trying to get you linked up with Jeff Berwick of Anarchast.
Yeah.
And you never heard back from him, and I'm wondering what's your take on pushing that a little bit more, because there's some philosophical issues that we're starting to talk about here that I really would like to get you thinking about a little more deeply than I think you have.
Well, believe it or not, I have thought very, very, very hard about these things. I was actually into philosophy and logic and all that before I even got into computer science. When I was a filmmaker, I started down that road.
That's
and
good.
I got into.
I think there's a lot of value in that, a huge amount of value in that. But there's some contradictions that I don't think you're able to see right now, and that's that in just what you said about people being able to be self-actualized, and yet you have this trust in a constitution, which is an authority which takes away from it. It's restrictions against what you can do yourself.
Well, it depends, because the way we define freedom is the way freedom is defined is different for a lot of people. For our society, being a society that is where the law rules, that is what allows us to have freedom in the first place, because people must constrain themselves.
The law is you have to have rules. There's no question. Anarchy is not
right.
No rulers. I mean, it's not no rules, it's no rulers. So you do have to have rules. That's the consensus that we all have to come to, and how we agree with each other. But
right.
In terms of something like a document that's restrictive of that those rules, they have the power to tax, and the power to tax is the power to steal. And that's where you start impinging upon other people's rights to do what they want to do.
Well, that's a way to look at it, I guess. But I don't agree with that notion, because if you're going to have a society, which we do, you have to be able to protect the rights of those. And so in order to do that,
look at Detroit and how they protect their citizens there. I mean, there's no government now.
Tom, I'm with you on that. See, so that becomes an issue of just how much is right? Because there's always a balance. So everybody's view is going to be a sort of somewhere along the scale of 0% and 100% taxation. Everybody's view is going to be along that scale. So the higher you go, the further you get into other people's philosophies. The less you go, the more you get into, our kind of philosophies. So for me, it's just about understanding what's on that scale. Now, of course, we can get into the whole, like I said, I'm an American. I believe in a very specific implementation of a constitutional republic, which is similar to the one that we have, because it's the best system that has worked most amount of people. It's not perfect, but it's the best system we have to date that has worked for the maximum amount of people. So in that, I would rather see a reconfiguration of that kind of system to where we reinstall the things that have made us the best. And so,
I'll let you continue, but the bottom line is I'm going to say is that we keep repeating the same mistakes over and over again. And if you really get down to the details of why that happens, I think you'll see that there are flaws in even the Constitution. And so any Constitution is going to be flawed because of these fundamental things, and we can't seem to learn from that.
Well, I agree with you, Tom, that any system is flawed, but it's not because of the information. It's because of the computing human. The human being takes the information, installs it, and chooses to do with it what he will. So you're always going to have a
the
flaw.
lack of information too.
Right. So you're always going to have a flaw in a type of system because the human being itself is flawed, but the information is not flawed. If we had angels, they would be computing these commands perfectly. You know, like
you mean like little algorithms for us to
yeah, exactly. Well,
find
that's what
things like
information.
Google Alerts.
Information is that. That is what information is at the end of the day. They're little commands, they're computes that the human being ought to follow. That's why we have those laws. So that's how I see it. Whether you call it Constitution, this or that, it's all information that a human being can choose to install and compute accordingly. So that's how I come at it. So if that's the case, then I would rather create a society where there's the best amount of laws in place to allow us to have the maximum amount of freedom. Because freedom doesn't, in my opinion, mean the ability to do anything and everything. If that was the case, murderers would have more freedom than me because they'll do one thing that I won't. I won't go and just kill somebody. They would. So they'd be freer than me. So you can't define freedom and the ability. Go ahead.
You're right that it all comes down to what's in the human's head. That's the flaws that's the flaws in any system because we can't orchestrate that. There's so many things that this rabbit hole goes down. I really would love to have a personal conversation with you because this is kind of off band from the mainstream of what we're trying to accomplish here. So I'm gonna put my ideas of this aside for the time being.
Oh, no worries, Tom. You know, we can have this conversation whenever you'd like.
Well, these are open discussions, but I will say that this open discussion has run to 2 hours. I have to I have to take off about 10 minutes for the beginning because of some of the mic issues. However, it has been a really good hangout, and I really liked the fact that we can ask difficult questions among one another and answer it honestly and without screaming at each other, and this is amazing how it happens every time this way. So I appreciate all of you for giving your candid and respectful input because that is really what makes these what they are. And in the future, I just want to remind all of you, we do hand out tokens to people here, but it looks like the share bot is not working right now. It is part of beta. We are still having everything worked on, so don't think that it's dead. But I will be rewarding you guys over time with something that nobody really has been aware of yet, but that'll be something I talk about someday.
Thank you, Fuzzy. This has been fantastic, and like you, I have to go myself. So thank you so much, and Solomon, I'll try and get a conversation started with you on Skype or whatever at some point in time, in the near future. You've got a lot on your plate, so I don't want to monopolize that. But you guys take care and have a great weekend.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, and Tom,
appreciate everything, man.
Roadscape once said to me something that was very, I'll never forget. He said, everything is content. So, those are things that you guys can always keep in mind.
Absolutely.
All right. And thank you for attending, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Bye.